listening to WGBB, Long Island's oldest radio station. I'm Brad Nellis.
And I'm Scott the Waz.
And this is Nonsense News with a Nation. Your news with a comedic twist.
Coming up in just a few minutes,
we say goodbye to the late Planters mascot, #RIPeanuts.
Get your umbrellas out, because it's raining iguanas.
A Brooklyn man introduces us to his support animal, a glass of beer.
Vicious animals save the day. Wait a minute, those aren't animals.
See how a middle school basketball game takes a turn for the ugly. It's Scott's face.
You mean Scott the Waz's face. The first space food has been baked. All of this and much, much more coming up on Nonsense News Nation, your news with a comedic twist.
Only on WGBB AM 1240. We love that station. It's our home.
Thank you, guys.
We hope everyone is having a fantastic Saturday. And Scott, I apologize for interrupting you.
No, it's okay. I know my face is hideous. You don't have to.
I just thought pointing out the obvious was the right thing to do at the moment. I sort of blanked. But that's besides the point, because right now we have to introduce someone that's very dear to the show, someone who does the art for us, someone who is our inspiration, the soul of the show, the Herschel Green, if you will, of the show. We have Ben Schwartz. How you doing, buddy?
Hi, Ben.
Hey, what's up?
Sky's up.
What?
Ceiling's up.
What? Where am I?
It doesn't matter right now. It's just radio. You don't have to see anything.
Oh, I'm on radio?
Ben made me refer to myself as Scott the Waz.
That is true.
And I respect him enough to do that.
And
Yes.
Okay. So that's great.
I'm feeling really good about the show today. I'm feeling
All
like
right.
we're going to have a great one.
I may have to put a damper on that mood because with the story I'm about to tell is going to be a little bit of a sad one. So we're going to go to our very first segment, national news. We're going to go around the country and see what all the hubbub is about. Bub. So
Thanks,
this is a
bub.
sad one. I wish I had sadder
no.
music, but this is our national news music. This is pretty much the national anthem.
But this story affects everybody in the nation, right?
Yes. Heck,
The Nonsense Nation.
it affects the entire world because this is big.
The nut-consuming world.
Exactly. So Scott and I, even Ben, we pride ourselves on running a zany little comedy show filled with laughter, joy, and the occasional knee slapper. We love to make you laugh. That's why it breaks my heart that we may have to make you cry with this next story. You see,
I have my tissues ready.
God. You see, there's been an accident, Scott. There's been an accident, Ben.
My face?
It may be
that.
worse.
National
It's-
tragedy.
It looks a lot worse than your face, if you can believe it.
We
We're
lost a
mourning
great
the
man.
loss of somebody.
It's a tragic one.
Peanut.
Someone very close to you, in fact, Scott. He was in it, and he didn't make it.
Are you talking about last night, the story I told you?
No. That's something that should not be talked about on the radio.
No. No.
What I'm talking about, guys, is, of course, Mr. Peanut, the beloved Planters icon. He passed away. If you want to take a moment to cry, to talk to your loved ones and hug them and just be grateful that they're still there, I don't blame you. I really don't. This is very sad news. You see, for those with a peanut allergy, you may not understand, but Mr. Peanut was a legend, an icon to the world of nuts. There have been many heroes throughout American history. George Washington for establishing our great nation. Martin Luther King Jr. for single-handedly giving the CEO of racism a knuckle sandwich. Iron Man for beating up that big purple alien dude in that Avengers movie.
He's back.
But Mr. Peanut, he was the best of all of us. But how did he die, you might be asking? For anyone who doesn't have Google, Yahoo, or heck even Bing, I'll tell you if no one else will. Evidence of this tragedy can be found in a pre-game Super Bowl commercial for what else but, of course, Planters. So in the commercial, we see our hero riding his iconic Nutmobile. Super iconic.
What is it fueled by?
It's cheese balls.
People with peanut allergies.
They grind them up.
They grind them up. They're useless to the Mr. Peanut.
They are his captives.
Don't eat my peanuts. I'll eat my Nutmobile will eat you.
Please
So-
continue, Brad.
So they're driving up a steep hill with his two best friends that you may all know, Matt Walsh and Wesley Snipes.
His two best
His two
friends.
best friends. They go everywhere together. Sometimes Wesley Snipes is on the cover of Planters. Sometimes if Mr. Peanut is on a holiday. So as they're cruising, they're cranking up the song I Just Died in Your Arms Tonight by Cutting Crew. True foreshadowing if I've ever seen it myself. Anyway, as they're driving, our protagonists notice an armadillo chilling on the road. Sorry, I didn't pass the 3rd grade. I can't say armadillo correctly. As the mascot of the vegans, Mr. Peanut is a sworn protector of wildlife and intentionally maneuvered off the road to not harm one of Mother Nature's precious creatures. Godspeed, Mr. Peanut, Godspeed. So as they're swerving, they fly out of the Nutmobile in a slow-motion shot that has not been seen since the first Matrix film. But instead of bullets in the air, it's just chunks of peanuts, obviously. So the Nutmobile took a nasty tumble off the cliff, leaving the 3 peanut enthusiasts hanging from a conveniently placed branch. While they avoided one tragedy, another seemed to be rising in its wake. The branch was cracking, not being able to support all 3 of their weights. Matt Walsh and the Blade actor fought with each other to see who would sacrifice themselves for the other 2 to live. Mr. Peanut was not an option. Mr. Peanut is too important. Mr. Peanut cannot die, and they were aware of that. In a righteous act of pure selflessness, Mr. Peanut let go of the branch and plummeted to his death, landing on top of the Nutmobile, almost as if he were saying farewell to it, giving it one last joyride. The reunion was cut short. The Nutmobile exploded into a million delicious pieces with the corpse of the planter's mascot. I actually have the ad with me, so you can listen to it. So we're going to play that clip right for you if you didn't believe my story that he's actually gone.
I just died in your arms tonight. Oh, look out! Abandon Matt!
Very hard to listen
Too
to.
heavy. Matt, let go. No, you
Grace
let
today.
go.
If your
Hey,
kids are
Mr. Peanut,
listening,
no, you don't.
please
Mr.
send them to bed early.
There was a lot of blood.
Maybe he'll be all right. Maybe not.
Maybe not indeed, unfortunately.
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
I'm telling you that icon, Mr. Peanut, really busted one nut there and exploded into a million pieces.
My God.
So, Scott, Ben, I don't know why they would show this on national television. I'm not sure the kids were ready to see that.
Well, Brandon, they put us on national radio, so.
I mean, if we're on radio, I guess the horrific death of Mr. Peanut should be seen.
Somebody contact the FCC. Maybe they'll change the standards.
Unless they're allergic to peanuts, then
Maybe.
they won't
They're a
even
bunch
look at it.
of pansies.
You know,
I do say.
it's really funny that you guys are...
It's not funny.
No, I
Take
mean,
that back.
That's not funny, but you know, Planters just started re-releasing their famous cheese balls. Like, I'm not sure if you know, it was very popular in the 80s.
So
Wait a minute. This is why they killed off Mr. Peanut, because they
So
wanted
Cheesy
to push the
McCheese
cheese?
can live?
Maybe.
Hi, I'm Cheesy McCheese,
Is
the
that
new Planters
actually-
mascot.
That's not
Maybe it's
actually a mascot.
conspiracy.
It's
Definitely. This is nuts. Pun entirely intended. So, while I understand it's very horrific to see, I think it is somewhat important for us to see. A national treasure is gone. People need to know that Mr. Peanut sacrificed himself for his friends. And he died doing what he loved. Listening to
dying.
listening to 80s music, protecting animals, and taking his Nutmobile for a risky joyride. That's what he loved doing in his life.
For the sake of America.
For the sake of America,
Are we really acting like
vegans.
they're not going to bring him back in the next commercial?
that you have to wait and watch the Super Bowl to find that out.
Which
But-
means he's coming back.
But you know what, Scott? I always told you to stop looking at the future. You need to stay in the moment, stay in the present,
Stay in
and
the
right
now.
You're right.
Stay in the now. If you're a Gorillaz fan, it's a Gorillaz album. Pun.
Right
But-
now, we have to mourn the loss.
Right now, we have to mourn because
of a
on
national
Twitter,
treasure.
the Mr. Peanut estate paid their respects to this food mascot, saying, quote, "It is with heavy hearts that we confirm that Mr. Peanut has died at 104. 104.
He's had a long life.
A long
Lived a
life.
long life.
Maybe
Yeah.
maybe it was his time.
100, probably. He was waiting to die.
He had
probably crashed,
Alzheimer's.
crashed that Nutmobile.
Who let a 104-year-old man drive?
An armadillo on the road. Finally, the perfect excuse.
Is that anti-Cosmo here?
We need to have a moment of silence for...
So
our
let me
peanut
finish the quote.
yeah, shut up, Ben.
man. No, you.
Ben, it's like you don't even care about peanuts. Peas or nuts.
I'm more of a pistachio guy myself.
He represented all of that. And he's gone. So, let's continue on. In the ultimate selfless act, he sacrificed himself to save his friends when they needed him most. Please pay your respects with hashtag RIPnuts. Listen, if everyone doesn't mind, I'd like to have a moment of silence for our fallen hero.
Okay.
So if we could stop breathing and just stop. All right, get on. This is radio. We got like a limited amount of time. We got to continue on.
I think we're going to
Let's
go
keep
to
the
our
show on
next
the
story,
road.
Brandon. Thank you for your very long and insightful piece.
Well,
about
it
Mr.
wasn't easy
Peanut.
for me. I don't know why I'm not blubbering and crying right now. I guess the tears
Because
came out
you have
before.
hope in your heart that he will come back during the Super Bowl.
It's a shame I'm not going to watch the Super Bowl, but I sure hope so.
We'll have to watch it to see what's going on for the
Just
next
wait
show.
a day later.
Anyway,
It'll be on YouTube.
let's go into my story here. We're going back to Florida, the Sunshine State. We talked a lot about it our last show.
Are you kidding me?
It
I
was the
just went to
focus-
Florida. I had a wonderful tan, and now I'm pale again. You're going to tell me now I have to get that tan all over again?
I'm sorry, Brandon. We have
You
to go
gotta do
back.
it. And-
But you're not going to be getting a tan because it is very cold there. Over the past couple of weeks, Florida has been experiencing a cold snap, with temperatures hovering at around 40 degrees. Since this is being called a snap, this may be the work of a certain purple titan, if it's a cold snap. But I digress. Due to this uncomfortable freeze, the National Weather Service has issued a falling iguana warning. You heard me correctly. And in my mind, iguanas falling out of the trees sounds like a lot like Squidward when he was falling. We'll play that clip right now.
Oh, gee, that's very nice. Oh, what is this, some kind of magic act?
So instead
Yeah.
of a squid
It's
falling,
absolutely terrifying.
imagine it's an anamorphic iguana, and that'd be very accurate.
And it's screaming at the top of its lungs.
Now why?
What,
So-
what do they even sound like?
They probably sound
like-
they probably
sound
don't
like a
make any
chicken.
noises. They probably sound like Miss Fowl, yeah. See, the cold-blooded creatures, they become immobile during cold weather and fall from trees that they live in. They might not be dead when they fall from the trees. They might just have fainted.
Probably be dead from the falling from a tree.
But you want to know what's morbid, Brandon? The state of Florida is saying do not pick up the reptiles as they fall, because the warmth from your hands may warm them up and they might become vicious and attack
They may
you.
jolt.
They may jolt at
They may
you,
eat
exactly.
you.
The magic touch. It's
And,
real.
you know, in Florida, the iguanas are considered an invasive species because they attack gardens, they eat landscapes. So the state of
karma
Florida
got to them.
The
Is
state
that
of
what you're
Florida.
saying?
I'm saying the state
That's
of
what they
Florida
deserve.
kind of just wants them to die. Is
They
what I'm
want them.
saying.
This is all some crazy conspiracy where they turned on all the air conditioners at the same time in Florida, cooled it up so the iguanas could get what's coming to them.
I
As
think we're
a
onto
famous
something.
clown once said, I have to bleep it because it's not radio friendly. It's what you get. It's what you deserve. You know what I'm talking about? Joaquin Phoenix. You know Joker.
Oh, you're talking about Joker.
The Murray
wait,
Show.
the spoilers can't say it. If you haven't seen it, go see it.
Well,
If you're not going to see it, don't see it.
I actually have a special announcement for you, Ben. You've
Oh.
actually been invited to go on the Murray Show.
I have?
You have been invited on.
Oh, boy.
Except it was canceled 40 years ago because he was murdered.
Oh, man.
So just because our little green friends eat your garden, it doesn't mean they deserve to die.
But
I rest my case.
they're so cute laying there almost dead like on the floor. Don't you just want to pet them?
I
or
do,
put them
but
on
my
a
hand
stick.
wants to stay safe. also.
So, since we're on the radio, since you know us, since you trust us, we're going to give our best advice on how to resist the cuteness of a fallen iguana and how you should not pet them. Scott, I want you to give me your best advice right now.
How to avoid
How
it?
to avoid petting an iguana even though they look so gosh darn cuddly.
Well, my best advice would be to get down to the iguana and scream at it as loud as you can. So this way, it's frightened by you and it runs away.
Give it a nightmare. Ben, what would you do?
Give it a tab of acid.
So iguanas are meat, right? You can eat frogs. You can eat different type of
I don't
amphibians or
normally
lizards.
do that.
Just put it on a stick and roast it.
But then you're heating it
Well, it
up.
got
It's going to come back to
Yeah,
life.
but it's
You're
if
right.
I poke-
Man, you
It's going to be
If
flaming
I-
like
logic is
Ghost Rider.
flawed.
If I impale it with a stick, it's not going to be living
With a
anymore.
heated stick?
with a
That's
heated
all it
stick,
needs.
it's coming back.
Or a cold stick.
Joke.
Freeze it. Make
Okay,
a lizard
that's
pop.
That's one way to avoid.
My advice, a much friendlier advice that I have to give, I'd wear special gloves. Make sure it's been in the freezer for about at least 2 hours. Put them on. So if you're taking a stroll through Florida and you see the iguanas, you have every right to pet it, and it won't be warm enough where it would jolt back to life and haunt you for the rest of your days.
You give great advice, Brandon.
Exactly.
Thank you, Brandon.
I do.
Very helpful.
indeed.
I think it's time we move on to our next story.
And what type of story is that? Is that a national story?
It's not national, it's actually international. We're
Oh,
going
boy.
all over this planet, and we're finding
We're
crazy
gonna
stories.
see how people are reacting to Mr. Peanut. We're gonna see how the iguanas are doing in Japan. Let's see what's happening around the world, because I don't know.
What
But
is
you do
happening
know.
around the
you
world?
you have two stories telling you what's going on.
Then
Or maybe one.
let me listen in and listen good. What do we got?
Me? Oh, I don't actually have an international story.
Really? Because I don't.
Oh, you don't? Well, this is really
Oh,
funny.
wow.
We'll do a second national, but we'll keep the international song going.
It's just so good.
Why
I
do
would
you
love
guys have
how-
these stories?
I can't believe.
Me and Brandon don't always communicate well, but
I
we
can't
always
believe
have great
Cardi B
stories.
went into the studio and made the song for us.
Cardigan Backyardigan? Is that her full name?
Thank you,
Cardi
Cardi
B.
B.
What does
Very
B
cool.
It stands for Billy Butcher.
All right, what's your
So,
story?
lions and tigers and bears, oh my.
And now iguanas.
And now iguanas. Grown men
And
dressed
peanuts.
as these animals
I wish.
restrained a man assaulting his girlfriend outside of FurryCon. Allow me to paint this picture, guys. So just outside of
Was FurryCon not enough for you?
Where is this furry con?
I'll tell you, Ben.
Bronx
Just
Zoo.
outside of FurryCon in San Jose, California, 22-year-old Dimitri Hardnett was assaulting his girlfriend in his own parked car.
Yikes.
A small group of furries leaving the convention spotted the attack and then leaped into action.
Because they're animals, get it? So they leap. They don't walk.
Thank you, Brandon.
It'd be like really funny if, because you know how different animals are superheroes, like Rocket from Guardians of the Galaxy. Someone is dressed up as a raccoon, like, oh, that's the Guardians of the Galaxy. We'll save you. Or like they're dressed up as the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
But they weren't
It's
they
not-
weren't
Get out,
cosplay.
dude.
It's Paw Patrol.
Stop attacking that girl, man.
You guys know Paw Patrol?
Or they could be Paw Patrol. They could
One
be dressed
was
up.
Peppa Pig.
One was Peppa Pig. Who knows? What were they dressed up as? Do you know, Scott?
There was a fox. There was a white fox like Swifty.
From
Oh,
There
Arctic
was a
Dogs?
polar. They were all just Arctic Dogs characters.
It's the
PB.
Arctic Dog cast.
With their anthropomorphic powers, the grown men were able to restrain Hardnett until the police arrived. He has since been booked into Santa Clara County Jail, all thanks to our costumed heroes.
Please tell me they're deputized as crime-fighting heroes.
Of course. Well, what I was going
Thanks,
to say is,
Batman.
I think they deserve a Netflix show based on their heroic act. It should be like a group of superheroes, and they're all furries.
Netflix. I say we move them up to
National
Disney
television.
Plus.
Disney Plus.
I say we
National
put them in the
television.
Marvel Cinematic Universe. If you have Rocket the raccoon,
Forget the Young Avengers. We need the furries.
and the best part about it, you know, Rocket in the films, he's CG, so you have a lot of animators spending a lot of time getting the fur right, getting it vocally set up, synced up with
You
him
think
and Bradley
those guys
Cooper.
are furries?
These guys, you don't need any CG. You can get the goodness of Rocket from Guardians of the Galaxy. But
Do you want to see a guy
But they're
6
dressed
feet
up as
tall dressed up
costumes.
as Rocket the Raccoon?
Yes.
you don't have to
kinda
pay
do
them.
too.
You can make a much cheaper film or show, not having to animate. You have the costume right there, and they're already crime fighters.
Like
This is
Spider-Man.
perfect.
Japanese Spider-Man.
Like Japanese Spider-Man. This is perfect.
You know what else is perfect?
What?
Your next story.
Oh, all right. So we're done with national, done with international.
I suppose
No
so. What do you
international.
what do you
I think
have?
it's time we move on and move on to something better. We're going to go into our next segment. We call it Fails and Foolishness. And why is that, Benny Boy?
Oh no, I'm the guest.
He's the guest.
It's a rhetorical question, Ben. Don't answer the question. It was clearly rhetorical.
Well, I answered it. Give me an answer.
But we try to pick out the greatest fail we could think about.
I
And we
think
talk
the
about it.
biggest fail is having him on the show. Oh, burn!
I think that's for
that
next
wasn't
week. We're
very
gonna
nice.
talk about how we
You're uninvited
really
from my show now.
Oh no.
The Ben Show coming out next
The
week.
Ben
the Uncle
Show.
Ben show. It's a prequel to Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So anyway, our fail for this week goes out to all of society, just like the Joker would say, society. Oh yeah, I'm addressing the whole world for this one. Every single one of you listening, even you, Scott, even you, Ben, even
Uh-oh.
our board engineer. It goes out to everyone.
What did you do?
Every last one of you has failed to respect beer as an emotional support animal.
Beer?
Beer.
Beer.
Beer. The
Beer.
beverage beer.
Beer.
Yes.
Beer.
Oh, I
Beer.
love beer.
Not
So
as good as me
we're-
beer.
Our main character of the story, our protagonist, if you will, is by the name of Floyd Hayes, not to be confused with Pink Floyd or Purple Haze by Jimi Hendrix. He's from Clinton Hill, not to be confused with Bill Clinton Hill, a very different place.
Oh man, Monica.
Monica is the president there.
God.
So he'd registered his trusty beverage companion as an emotional support animal last month. And while society, sound like the Joker now, may shun that, he has our full respect here at Nonsense News Nation. Since I have Scott as my emotional support animal, I don't need beer like Hayes, but I feel for this guy, I really do. He claims to not have any sort of alcohol problem, which is good, so no need to cry foul. Like Miss Fowl. He actually registered his pet beer with the USA Service Dog registration, so this is pretty legit. Beer is a convenient service animal. You don't have to clean it up. No, clean it up. You don't have to clean up after it. I guess you can clean it up if it dies. It doesn't scoot its butt on the carpet like other service animals, and it doesn't require any training. All Hayes has to do is have it near him whenever he's facing problems with his social anxiety disorder. Surprisingly enough, Hayes hasn't brought it with him, as he's practicing dry January. So he's not actually using his emotional support animal because he's respecting the holiday of dry January.
His own. I never heard dry January. I guess it must
That's
be.
that a new
because
thing?
you're an alcoholic, Scott, and you got a serious problem. And this show is actually not a show, but an intervention.
Proud.
We're here for you, Scott.
I only
Nah, he's
drink.
faking it.
He needs an
What?
emotional support beer.
Give me another.
So he's gonna use it as soon as he goes to a party and there's a really cute girl that he's having difficulty talking to. And once he sees that girl, his trusty beer companion, who he hadn't registered a name yet for, will be right by his side.
So, question: is this just one beer, or is it multiple beers?
Well, since he didn't register a name for the beer, it could be multiple beers. You could have his IPA, throw it out, and then the next day could be Boston Lager, and no one would be the wiser.
But this is just an excuse to drink when you can't talk.
He's
to
not
people.
an alcoholic. It's on the registration. Look it up.
All right.
He has social anxiety. You need to respect that.
You know, there's such thing as a psychologist. There's a lot of other things.
You know, there's
could
such
do.
thing as an emotional support animal.
But that's not an animal. That's a drink.
Urban Dictionary would beg to differ. And I'm going to update that soon.
How about we
so
all go
mark
to
my words.
Boston Market after this?
How about
Down, Ben?
No. I hate Boston.
he has a
Market.
horror story about that, but that's
Every
for
time
another
I go to
story.
Boston, no.
But in the meantime, let's go on to our next segment. It's called Spastic Sports, and we go over the wackiest of sports. Not typical sports news, but stuff we find which is particularly bizarre. So we're going to get to that right now.
Poop throwing. My favorite sport.
Oh, dude, that's going to be in the Olympics. Haven't you heard?
Oh, I should enter.
Facial throwing. But that's not our story, because that's too normal. NBA games can get ugly. That's why some of us may prefer going to a middle school basketball game. Besides the occasional pedophile in the bleachers, it's usually a fairly wholesome event. Well, that'll change when an Ohio dead... Excuse me, I wrote dead on the script. An Ohio dad who is not dead headbutted the referee at a recent game. The dad was the father of a 5th grade girl who was playing in the game. Makes sense. Referee Doug Thompson had a bunch of rude comments coming his way regarding the calls that he made. But the game commenced as usual. It wasn't until the second half of the game that the dad started to curse at Thompson. The ref eventually had enough and told the dad to leave during a timeout. The dad may have needed a timeout. According to Thompson, he flipped me the middle finger and said the F word to me again. And then he jumped down and he headbutted me in the face. That's my Boston accent. For anyone,
like bootleg JFK.
I'll take it. I will honestly take it. For anyone unaware, the F word is usual. It's not usual at a middle school. It's usually a no-no. And a headbutt
Is it Frodo?
the F word. Don't say Frodo. I'm
first?
Sauron. He's the ring bearer. So while Thompson didn't end up like our boy Mr. Peanut, he still faced minor injuries. And just like Apu in The Simpsons, the dad was banned for life from the school.
Oh my god.
Thompson had said that, quote, "It's getting very scary to be a referee. Our hearts go out to all the defiled referees out there, just doing their jobs. And of course, our hearts still go out to Mr. Peanut and the Peanut family." And
Much
that's what I
respect.
have.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank
Thank
you
you
very
so
much.
much,
Very
Brandon.
welcome.
I think we're only
Thank
going
you
to
for
have
having
time
me
for
over.
one last story, and it's going to be our intergalactic segment, a new segment we introduced last show. So we'll play the music here, and then I'll get right into my story as quickly as I can. So, for the second show in a row, we are leaving our little green planet. The nonsense is not
Is it
limited.
green or is it orange like the fire in Australia? I don't know.
Oh my god.
We'll get into that. Normally, astronauts bring dehydrated and prepackaged food with them on their intergalactic
Planters
adventures.
peanuts. R.I.P.
That may be changing
bringing
as
up peanuts,
food
for
was
God's
officially cooked and baked this
You had
past
your
week
time.
in space. While floating in a SpaceX capsule, Italian astronaut Luca Parmita, I'm sorry, I butchered that name.
It's okay. It's all right. I get it all the time.
He baked some cookies in a prototype 0G oven, and he figured out that the amount of time to cook cookies in space is 2 hours. It takes a lot longer in
That's
space,
crazy.
apparently. This is one small step for cooking and one giant leap for astronaut kind.
And the Italians.
That's all the time we have, Brandon, unfortunately.
Oh, that is very unfortunate.
That is very
but
unfortunate.
We'd like to thank you for listening on the show. We'd like to thank all the zany people for being part of our stories. If you want to sponsor us, be a guest, you can contact us at nonsensenewsradio@gmail.com. That is nonsensenewsradio@gmail.com. We're on Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn. We'll be back in 2 weeks for more WGBB goodness. Once again, I'm Brad Nellis.
I am Scott the Waz.
And I am Ben. For
And
some
this
reason.
was Nonsense News Nation, your news with a comedic twist, only on WGBB.
Peace.
Peace.